Masechet Baba Kama Daf Gimel. Yesterday we saw the Mishnah that says there are 4 avot nizikin, and the Gemara said, well, if there are avot, if there are primary categories, then there must also be toladot subcategories. And then the Gemara wondered, these subcategories, do they have the same level of liability as the avot or not? Is it like Shabbat, where the av and the tolada carry the same punishment? Or is it like Tum'ah, where the Av, which is the original source of the Tum'ah, has a higher status, makes other things Tameh in more ways than the Tolada, which has a lesser status. It's only a secondary source of Tum'ah. So which one is Nizikin like? Is it is the Av and the Tolada the same, or is the Av and Tolada different? Rav Papa answered there that in some cases of Nizikin it's the same, and in some cases of Nizikin the Tolada is lesser than the Av. And now the Gemara, that's what Rav Papa said. He didn't explain himself. So now the Gemara is going through various cases to see in which cases what would Rav Papa say that the Tolada is lesser liability than the Av. Yesterday we looked at keren, a horn, and we saw, well, for keren, it's the same, tolada, de keren, ke keren. So now we're going to try other possibilities. V'chi kamar Papa ashen veregel. Papa said that the av is different from the tolada. Maybe he meant that it's regarding shen and regel. Now, before we get to what are the toladot of shen varegel and trying to see if they're the same or not, we're going to end up bringing a few toladot and end up saying that actually the tolada is the same level of liability as the av. But before we do that, we want to go on a detour and ask, Shen veregel hecha ketibi. What is the source of Shen and regel in the Torah? And the answer is the Tanya v'shilach ze haregel v'chen omer mishaleche regel hashor v'hachamor. So we're looking at the pasuk here in Sefer Shemot that says Ki yav'er ish sadeh ocherem v'shilach et be'iro. These are the 2 words that we're going to be analyzing. If a person has livestock and it goes into someone else's field or vineyard, and vishilach, he sends his livestock to go and eat in someone else's field, so he has to pay back the best. So of this vishilach and be'iro, we're going to see. The word vishilach in the pasuk, that refers to the trampling that it does while it's in someone's field and smashes and destroys the things that it steps on. Now, where do we see that the word vishilach is related to the trampling? It says here in pasuk in Yeshaya, Meshaleche regel hashor v'hachamor. Yeshaya is actually talking about good times of peace to come, when you will be able to send your ox and your donkey, and they will go and have pasture. So even though it's a positive context of good things in the future, nevertheless, our point is that it says mishaleche and regel. So we see that when you send an animal to go somewhere, it's going to walk there, and whatever it steps on, tramples on, if it's your own field, that's fine. If it's someone else's field, then that is a form of damage. So the word v'shilach is connected with regel. Now, ubi'er zo hashen v'chen hu omer ka'asher yeba'er hagalal ad tumo. And the word ubi'er, so actually not this be'iro, but rather ubi'er. So we have v'shilach and bi'er, the 2 verbs here. And so the word bi'er refers to its eating. Where do we see that? In the curse against the Yerovam in Sefer Melachim, it says that Yerovam will be destroyed, swept away, like one consumes hagalal ad tumo. Now, how do you get tooth from galal? Galal literally means dung. So the connection seems to be as when one consumes food and digests it and turns it into dung, and then it's totally destroyed. That's how Hashem is going to destroy the house of Yerovam. But this is an analogy to eating that totally destroys a thing. And so it says the word yeva'ed, same as bi'ed. So here you see yeva'ed is related to eating and digesting. Good. That's the Braita. We're going to analyze this, the Braita that has the source for these. Amar mor v'shilach zo haregel v'chen hu omer meshaleche regel hashor v'hamor. We repeat the section of the Braita. V'shilach is related to regel, as it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya. Tama dichtav rachamana meshalech regel hashov hamor halav achi b'may mokmat la. So since the Baraita have to bring this pasuk from Yeshaya, it's saying that it's only because of the pasuk in Yeshaya that connects regel and the word and the verb shalach. That's how we know that it means trampling. But if not, well, so what else might you think, right? What else might the word v'shilach mean? Ikerem ketiv. If it's talking about keren, we already have a pasuk about keren. We saw that on the first daf. Ishen ketiv. If it's talking about eating, we already saw that eating is from the word ubi'ayed. So what else could it possibly be? In other words, even without the pasuk in Yeshaya, just by process of elimination, you would be able to figure out that the word v'shilach refers to regel. And then, so we answer, not necessarily. If we didn't have the pasuk in Yeshaya, right, I might think something else. Istirich, sakatatech amina idi v'idi ashen, v'hadim chalya karna, ha'adela chalya karna, kamashma lan. If I didn't have the pasuk from Yeshaya, and then I would have thought that both verbs, v'shilach and ubi'ayed, are both talking about consuming by eating. And why do you have two words? Well, there are two different subcases. One is when the animal eats the entirety of the item and completely destroys it, and one where he bites it, chews it, but doesn't completely destroy it. And so to teach that one is liable in both cases. That's what I might have thought. That's why I need the pasuk in Yeshaya to tell me that no, not so. The word v'shilach is actually referring to regel and not shen. Good. Now v'hashta dokimna regel shen de la mechalya kana minelan. Okay, fine. So now that I know that the word v'shilach is teaching us damages by regel, well, what about that case that you brought up? If something is consumed, but not totally, it's destroyed, but not totally consumed, how do I know that someone is liable? Maybe not, because I don't have an extra word for that. And the answer is dumya de regel. Since they're taught back to back, so that the damages for shen are similar to the damages for regel. Ma regel la shena mechalya karna la shena la mechalya karna. Avshen la shena mechalya karna la v'la shena la mechalya karna. Just like regarding trampling, it doesn't matter if the item is completely destroyed or not. The point is, it's trampled, it's smashed. That's the usual way of smashing. So too, with eating, it doesn't matter if the original object is totally destroyed or if it's not totally destroyed. With eating, sometimes it could be like half eaten or just chewed, but not necessarily totally eaten. But just from the fact that they are back to back teaches me that shen liability is similar to regel, and one is liable to both when it's totally consumed and not totally consumed. All right, so now we analyze the first half of the Braita. Now we'll analyze the second half. Amar mor ubi'ayed zo hashen, v'chen hu omer kasher yibayed hagalal ad tumo. Bi'ayed refers to eating, damage by eating, and the proof text is from Yerovam, where it says Yeva'ed, and also this digestion. So it seems that the only reason why we connect Bi'ed to Shen is because we have this pasuk in Melachim. But if I didn't have the pasuk, then, well, what else might have I thought? Ikeren ketiv, regel ketiv. What else would it be? Keren, we already have a source for that. Regel, we already have a source for that. So just by process of elimination, I could have figured out that bi'ayed is shen, and I don't need the pasuk. And the answer is istirich. Sakata dechamina idi v'idi aregel ha de'azil memela ha de'shalach shaluche kamashma lan. Now, without that pasuk from Melachim, I might have thought that both verbs v'shilach and ubi'ed are both talking about damages by regel, and one is talking about where the animal goes by itself and starts walking around, and the other is when the owner sends it and says, pushes it or leads it to someone else's field and it's walking around and trampling. So I might have thought I need two verbs for these two sub-cases. That's why I need the pasuk from Melachim to say, no, not so. They're not both two forms of regel, but rather bi'ayed is actually shen. And now, okay, fine. Now that you established that ubiyad is shen, what about the other subcase? When it goes on its own, maybe an owner should only be responsible when he sends the animal to someone else's field and tramples, but maybe if it goes on its own, the owner should not be responsible. And the answer, the source for that is Dumya Deshen. Mashen lo shena shilcha shaluche, la shena da'azal memela, afregel la shena shilucha shaluche, la shena da'azal memela. I can learn that's case from the juxtaposition of regel and shen. Just like regarding eating, it doesn't matter if the owner sends the animal and eats in someone's field or it goes by itself. The owner is responsible to make sure its animal is not eating from anyone else's field. So too regarding trampling, it doesn't matter if the owner sends it or if it goes out on its own. So I can learn that liability from the juxtaposition with shen. ולכתוב לך מנה ושילח ולה בעיה וביער דמשמע רגל ומשמע שן. משמע רגל דכתיב משלחי רגל השור והחמור. משמע שן דכתיב שן בהמות השלח בם. A further question on the terminology and the source. The Torah could really only write one verb, the word vishilach, and not write bi'ayr at all, because the word vishilach itself has two meanings. It means both regel and shen, and we see that from two pesukim. It means regel, as we said before. That's that's what we already interpreted it as meaning from the pasuk in Yeshaya. It says mishaleche and regel, and the word vishilach is also associated with shen, as it says in Parashat Ha'azinu, v'shen behemot, the teeth of animals, ashalach, I will send against them. So you have shen and sending. So really, I could learn both types of damages from the word shen. Why do I need the word ubi'ayr then? The answer is, if I only had one word, I might think that I can only learn one, because they're different in their essence. I would have thought either this or that. Either regel, which is common. It's common for animals to walk around, and wherever they're walking, they're going to trample on things. So either I would learn that paradigm, or I would learn that of eating, where there's the animal gets benefit from eating. It doesn't get benefit from the things that it's trampling on, that they just get smashed, but it does get benefit by consuming the things that it's eating. So since these are different categories, I might have thought can only learn one of them from vishilach. That's why I need the other word ubi'ayr. And then we say, well, actually, we would be able to learn both of them because they're equal. There's no reason to choose one over the other. So let's learn both of them, because which one would we exclude? There's no reason to exclude it and any one of them. The answer is as you're right. Maybe I would have been able to learn both categories, but still I need both verbs, because I would have thought that when is one liable? Only when he sends it on purpose, and sends his animal to go and trample in someone else's field. But if it goes on its own, then it wouldn't be responsible. That's why I need both verbs to teach me both shen and regel, and in both cases, it makes no difference if it goes on its own or if I actually send it. I wouldn't be able to learn all those things just with one word. Okay, this ends the tangent on the source for regel and shen. Now back to trying to figure out Rav Papa, when he said there are some categories of damages where the tolada is lesser than the av. So first, let's figure out what is the tolada of shen. Tolada de shen maihi nitchakecha bakote lahanata v'tinefa perot lahanata. Not only if it actually eats something, but also if it rubs against the wall because it wants to scratch its back and it damages the wall, or it rolls around in produce because it's pleasurable for it, and it damages the produce. Both these cases, similar to eating, it damages produce. These would be two different subcategories of shen. Now, my shen, the yesh hana'ah lehezeko mamoncha ushmirato alecha. What's distinctive about shen, that whole category? Well, the things that there is benefit to the one damaging, the animal gets benefit from eating, and it belongs to you, and you are responsible for safeguarding it. These two subcategories also fit the same bill, that the animal gets benefit and it belongs to you, and you have to safeguard it. So therefore, ela toldot deshen keshen. So since the subcategory has the same criteria as the major category, therefore it's going to have the same result, and the liability for eating is going to be the same as the liability for the toladot. And therefore, this is going to be still on the side that we're not looking for. We know that Papa says in some cases the Av and Tolada are the same. So for Shen, the Tolada and the Av are the same. But we're looking for, when does Rav Papa think that the Tolada is lesser than the Av? V'chi kama Rav Papa Tolada de regel. Okay, so we already knocked out Keren and Shen. Those don't work. So maybe the Toladot of regel are lesser liability than the Av of regel. So Tolada de regel mahi. What is a Tolada of regel? Hizika begufa derech hilucha, bis'ara derech hilucha, beshalif she'aleha, befrumbia shebefiha, bezog shebesavara. If it damages something while it's walking, not with its legs, but with its body, or with its hair, something gets caught in its hair or wool as it's walking, or with a rope that's attached to it, or a bit that's in its mouth, or a bell around its neck, the bell is swinging and knocks into something, right? All these are damages that it does while walking. It's not literally with its foot, or with its leg, but still, it's the same thing. It's doing it while it's walking. Well, okay, let's see. What would be the status of these items? What's distinctive about the category of regel, different from the other avot? That it's common, right? This is commonplace. Animals walk around and they don't look where they're going. They step on all kinds of things, and it belongs to you. The animal belongs to you, and you have to safeguard it. So these also, they all fit the bill. They also, there are cases where damage is commonplace and you own it and you have to safeguard it. So therefore, the liability for these toladot will be the same as the Av. I mean, it's kind of a tautology, right? Because first a tolada will only fit into the Av if it has the same fundamental characteristics as the Av. And since it has the same fundamental characteristics, it also has the same liability. Okay, so this is, it's almost an automatic result. Nevertheless, you see the Gemara is going through this whole exercise, even though it could jump to the answer, because we're learning so many things through the exercise, where, look how systematic it is. We're learning the source of each of the avot, and we're learning what are examples of toladot of each of the avot, and what is the essential characteristic of each of the avot. But instead of putting it in like bullet form that would just be boring to memorize, it puts it in a question-answer form that is a lot easier to memorize, digest, think about, and analyze. So, ela tolada de regel keregel v'chi kamara papa tolada de bor. So, in the end, the tolada of regel is the same as regel, and so we knocked out keren, shen, and regel, and those it's all the same. But we still have bor. So maybe the subcategories of bor are the same as bor. Tolada de bor ma'inihu. What are the toladot of bor? Ilema, that we don't have to bring the pasuk, because the pasuk is explicit, and we'll see the pasuk in a second. Maybe you'll say that the Av is when the pit is 10 tefachim deep. That's considered a pit that has the potential, if an animal falls in, that the animal will die. And tolada is if it's only 9 tefachim deep or less, a shallow one, where the likelihood is it's not going to die, but just get damaged. So maybe that's the tolada, but that can't be it, because the Torah doesn't say anything. It doesn't say 9, it doesn't say 10. The idea is that something that's an Av is what's explicit in the Torah. Something that's a tolada are other cases that are derived from it. But since the Torah doesn't say 9 or 10, there's no reason to think that either one of them is a tolada any more than the other is. Now we answer, halakashya v'hamet yihye lo amar chamana v'kimlu l'rabanan asara abdan mita tisha nezikin abde mita la abde. So this is not a problem, because in fact we can call the 10 tefachim in the Torah, the 9 tefachim not in the Torah, because look in the Pesukim. It says ki yiftach ish bor o ki yichre ish bor v'lo yichasenu. Someone opens a pit, digs a pit and does not cover it, v'nafal shama shora chamor, and an animal falls into it. Now so far we don't know what happened to the animal, but look at the next pasuk. Ba'al bor yeshalem kesef yashib li ba'ala v'hamet yiyelo. So the one responsible for the pit has to pay back to the owner, and the carcass of the animal, the dead animal, it belongs to the one that made the pit. So you see here that the animal died. Since the animal died, it must have been a pit that is 10 tefachim, because the rabbis have established that if something is 10 tefachim, then it's likely to cause death. If it's 9 tefachim, it causes damage but not death. And so one would be responsible for the death of the animal only if it's 10 tefachim or more. So we see, in fact, the Torah is talking about explicitly a 10 tefach deep pit. That's the Av. And a 9 tefach deep pit would be the Toladah. And so we say, no, that's not true. Sof sof ze'av l'mitav ze'av l'nzakin. No, it could be that the Torah has two avot. One is an av for the paradigm for a type of pit that causes death, and the other is a paradigm for a type of pit that only causes nizikin. The Torah is talking about both. You have to look at a double language here. Yiftach ishbor, yachrei ishbor, and it mentions a case. So it says here, you're going to have to pay. That payment would be if it only has nizikin. And this line, the payment is no matter what, if it's hurt or if it dies. And this line, listen, in the case where it dies, then the dead animal can be kept by the one who dug the pit. But that doesn't mean that that's the only case it's talking about. Right? It's also talking about a case where it's 9. So the Torah could be talking about both cases and giving two paradigms. So therefore, we cannot establish that a shallow pit is a toladah of a deep pit. Ela avno sakino maso shenicham b'shut rabim behiziku. Rather, it's talking about other items that one leaves in public domain. You put a stone and someone trips over it, or a knife, or a load, a suitcase or something, and someone stumbles on it and causes, or an animal stumbles on it and it causes that person damage. That would be a toladah. The Torah only talks about a hole, and this is other stumbling blocks. So now we ask, well, hold on. What would be the case if the person made a hefker? He took a stone, he put it in the middle of the street, and he said, it's not my stone, I don't care about it. Or any of these items, or a knife, an old knife, he wants to throw it out, he just leaves it there and someone cuts himself on it. Now, Rav and Shmuel both agree that that's exactly the same as bod. In other words, it's not a toladah, or fine, it's a toladah, but it has the same law as bod because it's ownerless. Just like a pit is ownerless, so too these things are ownerless, and therefore it will certainly have the same liability. So can't be talking about that. Now, if he didn't make it hefker, he puts his suitcase. He leaves it there for a while because he's going somewhere, and he leaves it in the middle of the street. And people trip on it, and he didn't make it hefker. He kept ownership. Well, in that case, there is a machloket about it, but either way, the person will have the same level of liability, because according to Shmuel, he says, we learn all such cases from bod, and even if you own it, it's still like the same as a bod. So that would be the same liability as a bod. And according to Rav, he says, if you put something in the middle of the street and you keep ownership of it, then that is the same as shor, meaning a shor that gored another ox. So this is an item that you own and it's causing damage to something else. So we would learn that from shor, and it would have the same status as shor, the same liability. Now, how do we know that these cases would have the same liability? Because the following reasoning: what's the distinctive about a bod? That it's dangerous from the beginning of when it's created. The second you dig a pit, it's already a dangerous thing, which is not true of other things, like the second an animal is born, it's not dangerous, or the second you make a fire, it could be a contained fire, but only when it gets out of hand, then it's dangerous later on. So bod is dangerous right away, and it's yours. You own it, and you have to safeguard it. So too, these items also, if you leave a knife or a stone in the middle of the street, it's already dangerous the second it's placed there, and you are responsible for it. So therefore, in all these cases, in all these toladot of bor, one is equally responsible. So now we've exhausted all of our possibilities, it seems, because the tolada of a board is also the same as a board. But wait, v'chi kamar papa tolada de mav'eh. Wait, back in the Mishnah, there's another category. So now we ruled out shor, keren, shen, regel, and board. We're including the things that were in the Mishnah as well as in the Braita that mentioned three of them. Two of them are overlapping. And so now we have a tolada of mav'eh. Now what is mav'eh? Mainihu I lishmuel damar mav'eh zo shen ha'okimna tolada de shen keshen. I lerav damar mav'eh ze adam mai avot umai toladot itbeh. There's machloket about what is mav'eh mentioned in the Mishnah. According to Shemuel, mav'eh means what it eats. It's the same as shen. So just mav'eh is what is called in the Mishnah. Shen is what is called in the Braita that we read yesterday. And so we already established that a tolada of Shen is like the Av of Shen, and therefore that is not what Papa is talking about. So it can't be that. So maybe it's the opinion of Rav. Rav says that Mav'eh refers to damages that a human being does to someone or something else. Okay, let's analyze that. What are the avot and what are the toladot of mav'eh according to Rav? V'chitema av ne'or tolada yashen. Maybe the av of when a human causes damage while awake, that's the paradigm. And the tolada is if a human causes damage while he's asleep, right? He's like sleepwalking or sleep moving, and he punches or destroys something in his sleep. Is that the tolada? Can't be. V'hatenan adam mu'ad le'olam ben ayer ben yashen. The Mishnah teaches that a human being is forewarned all the time, whether he's awake or he's sleeping. If a person is going to sleep in a dangerous situation, he's responsible. If a person drives while he's sleeping and falls asleep, and he crashes and smashes something, he can't say, well, it wasn't my fault, I was asleep. No, you have to know where you're sleeping and make sure that you're not putting anything in danger. So therefore, that would be equal liability. Rather, we're the tolada of damage if someone causes damage by phlegm or spittle. The main thing of the av would be causing damage by hitting something. And this is a secondary category, like if he spits on something that's a silk garment and causes it to be stained and damaged. So now what exactly is the case? If he causes damage by spitting on it while it's moving, in other words, he spits on something and directly on something and causes damage, well, that's his own strength is causing it. So that would be the same as tearing it or smashing it, right? It comes from his strength. So it doesn't really matter if it's from his spit or his body. And if it's after it landed, a person spits on the table, and then someone comes and puts something unknowingly on that table, or he slips on a person's phlegm or something after it's on the floor, then everybody would agree that that's the same as a board. Remember, we sort of said that Rav and Shmuel said if someone you don't care about it in the hefked, then that has the status of a board. And we already saw that the tolada of a board is the same law as a board. Ela tolada de mav'eh kemav'eh v'ri kamar papa a tolada de esh. So therefore we can rule out mav'eh even according to Rav that says the power of a person. A tolada of mav'eh is the same as the original. So we go back to the drawing board. Rav Papa, he was actually talking about esh, fire, which is one of the avot back in the Mishnah. All right, let's try this. Tolada de esh ma'inihu. What is a tolada of esh? The main thing is lighting a fire and letting it go to someone else's field. So if it's talking about a stone or a knife or some load that someone puts it on his roof, and then a regular wind comes and blows it off, and it hits someone, that would be similar to fire, because fire, I light a fire in my backyard, so that's no problem. It's my backyard. And a wind comes, and that's how fire is spread. a wind will come and send it to my neighbor. So that would be a similar case to I put something in a place where it's not bothering anybody, but a normal wind. If it's an unusual wind, a hurricane comes, then I can understand it's not my fault. If a hurricane comes and takes my porch furniture and knocks out someone else's window, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about something that is a regular wind, and I should have known and been forewarned and been more careful about it. Okay, so let's say that's the case, and that's the tolada. If it causes damage, this stone or knife causes damage while it's moving, while it's being pushed by the wind, well, that's exactly the same as esh, right? It might be a tolada, but it's going to have the same exact law because it has all the same criteria. Right? What's distinctive about esh? This is great. So we're getting all the distinctive qualities, the essence of each of these avot. So what's distinctive about a fire is that there's another force that combines with it. A fire by itself won't damage, but a fire that's pushed by wind will damage. A stone on top of a roof by itself will not cause damage, but that stone, together with a wind that pushes it, will cause damage. So it's yours, and you're responsible for it. Hanename, these items, the knife, the stone, the load on the roof, the wind is also pushing it, and it's yours, and you're responsible for it. Therefore, the liability would be the same. So now we ruled out esh, and by this time we have ruled out all of the possible avot. All the avot mentioned in the Mishnah and the subcategories of keren that were mentioned in the Baraita. And so that's it. We have that's all of them. So now we go back and say, wait a second. Let's go back to regel. Maybe it is in fact the tolada of regel. Yes, regel. How kimna tolada regel keregel? We already looked at that, and we established that a tolada of regel has the same liability as regel itself. And here's the final answer. Bachasi nezek serorot tehilcheta gemiri la. The case is pebbles that an ox kicks while it's walking. The normal case of regel is things that is trampling while it's walking. But if while it's walking, there's if a car is driving on the street and there's a puddle and it goes over the puddle and it pushes the water onto someone on the sidewalk and ruins their clothing. Right? So this is the same. It's a normal way of driving. It's a normal way of walking. And it happens to kick a pebble and it hits something and causes damage. Now there's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai that if someone's ox causes damage while it's walking and it kicks a pebble just as a result of walking, not on purpose that it's kicking it, so then the owner of the ox has to pay half of the damage. So here, this is a tolada of regel, but it's not the same liability. If it was really regel and an ox was trampling in my field, then the owner of the ox would have to pay a full amount. But if it causes damage only by pebbles that spray out, then that's only half nezik. So here's the case. We can only find one where Rav Papa says that the tolada is less than the av. Now, if it's actually different from regel, why are you even calling it a tolada of regel? Because until now, the tolada is always the same as the regel itself. So what does it help us to know that this is a subcategory of regel and not just something else, just its own halacha l'Moshe Misinai, something different altogether? And the answer is it does have a fundamental similarity to regel, which is that the damager has to pay from the best. If he's paying from land, he has to pay from the best land. And this has another meaning that we're going to see that is going to come up in a second. It means that he also has to pay no matter how much it is. For other types of damage like keren, if my ox, my shortam, gores your ox, then the maximum I have to pay is the amount that my ox that gored is worth. I don't have to pay more than that. Even if the half damage is more than my ox, I only have to pay up to the amount of my ox. So there's a limitation on keren. That limitation does not apply to regel, and that's why it's important to know that it's under the subcategory of regel, that I would have to pay from the best land. I would have to pay the entire amount of that half of the entire amount of damage, even if my ox is actually worth less than that amount. Good. Now you just established this as something that Rav Papa seems to know for sure, but how could Rav Papa know that if his own teacher, Rava, Rava's fourth generation, Rav Papa is a student, fifth generation, and because Rava himself asked, in the case of pebbles that are sprayed while the animal is walking and he has to pay half the damage, is that migufo? Migufo is the more limited amount, that he would only have to pay up to the amount of the damaging ox, but he wouldn't have to pay any more. Or is it superior quality, which means that he has to pay a full amount of the half damage, even if it's worth more than the actual ox? Rava had that question. So if how could Rava ask that question if Rav Papa already established that this is a category, a subcategory of regel, and therefore if it's a subcategory of regel, we know the answer. It's from the it has to pay the full amount. And the answer is Rava Mibaya let Rav Papa Peshita there. Yeah, okay. Rava had a question, and Rav Papa solved it. Actually, Rav Papa makes sense. Rav Papa is after, so Rava asked the question. Rava asked the question. Rav Papa thought about it, worked on it, and he came up with an answer. Okay, fine. According to Rava, who asked the question, and he wasn't sure what the answer is of do you have to pay migufo or min ha'aliyah. So according to him, why is the spraying of pebbles called a subcategory of regel? What did we learn from that categorization? And the answer is to teach us the fotra b'shut harabim, that one is exempt in the shut harabim. Just like trampling, if you leave your item in the middle of the street and my ox tramples on it, it's not my problem, right? So you left it in the middle of the street, so that one is patur. So too, if you're in the middle of the street and my ox kicks some pebbles while it's walking, causes damage, also patur. This category would only be liable in private property. We now analyze the next category mentioned in the Mishnah, ha-mav'eh v'ha-heb'er v'chule, mai mav'eh. All right, we already made reference to this machloket, but now this is the source of it. What does mav'eh refer to? Rav amar mav'eh ze adam, Shmuel amar mav'eh ze hashen. Rav says this damages by a person, and Shmuel says this damages by an ox that consumes something. What are their sources? Rav amar mav'eh ze adam dichtiv, amar shomer ata boker, gam laila, im teba'ayun be'ayu. So the word mav'eh is similar to be'ayu, and this refers to a watchman who says morning is coming, also night. If you inquire, you inquire. Now, who does inquiring? A person who has human intelligence. And so be'ayu is referring to an action of a person. Or it's not a direct proof exactly, but okay, the word mav'eh is similar to be'ayu and related to something a person does. Shmuel amar mav'eh ze Hashem dichtiv ech nichpesu esav niv'u maspunav. Mai mashma kedmetegem Rav Yosef. Echden it belish. Esav it galyan matmerohi. Pasuk from Ovadia. How was Esav searched out? How was hidden places revealed? The word niv'o sounds like mav'eh, kind of similar. Now, what does this mean? This means revealed. So, what does it have to do with teeth? Well, look at the way Rav Yosef is mitargem. He was expert in Aramaic translations. It says, how are his hidden places revealed? And so teeth are also revealed and concealed as one opens his mouth and shuts them while eating. And so this revealing refers to eating. Again, not really such a direct root of the word, but okay, it's an association with a word that sounds similar. So now we ask each one about the other. How come Rav doesn't like this proof from Shemuel to say that it's teeth? The Mishnah doesn't say the word niv'eh, it says mav'eh. It's a different word than niv'o in this pasuk. Shmuel says, but the Mishnah doesn't say bo'eh, that's in his pasuk, it says mav'eh. So they're both different words. So now the Gemara asks, okay, so now since neither pasuk as exact, not Rav's and not Shemuel's. So now we'll go back to the drawing board. Why does Rav not agree with Shemuel? Because his word also is not the same as the word in the Mishnah. And so Rav's actual answer is, the Mishnah already mentioned shor. When it mentions shor, that is inclusive of anything that a shor can do. And that's three things. These are the three things mentioned in the Braita yesterday. And that includes keren, shen, and regel. All those are included in shor. There are three avot that are in one word. So that's why mav'eh is already mentioned, because that's already within shor. A shor eats things, so that the av of shen is already included in the word shor in the Mishnah, leaving mav'eh open. So what else could it be? It's got to be something else, and that's why he chooses the pasuk that points to human damages. Ushmuel aname hatena le shor. Shmuel, what are you going to say about that? Doesn't the pasuk say shor? The Mishnah mentions shor, and one of the things the shor does is eat. Amar Rav Yehuda, tena shor lekarno mav'eh leshino. So Rav Yehuda explains for Shemuel's teacher that when the Mishnah mentions shor, it means specifically what he does with its horn. Shor is only for the horn, and that leaves off mav'eh to refer to teeth. V'hachika amar, lo ri'i hakeren she'en hana'a lehezeko, kiri hashen she'en hana'a lehezeka. And these should be different words because they don't have the same principle. This one, keren, is not the same as teeth, because for keren there's no benefit when an ox gores with its horn. It gets no benefit from that. So that's not the same as shen, where it's eating, consuming something, and getting calories from it, where it does get benefit from the damage that it causes. And the other way, you also can't combine them in one word, because shen is not the same, where shen is not intending to cause damage. It's just hungry and it's eating something. Has no intention. Whereas where for keren, for horn, that means it's angry, and it goes and it wants to cause damage to whatever it's goring. And so these are two different categories. And so for Shemuel, it makes sense for it to be two different words in the Mishnah, and that's why he says shor refers to keren only, and mav'eh is referring only to eating. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen.